15 दिन के अंदर अंदर जम्मू कश्मीर को लेके ये आपका दूसरा प्रोग्राम है। इससे पहले जम्मू को रेल डिवीजन से आपने नवाजा और उस प्रोग्राम में आपने शिरकत की और आज खुद आप सोनमर्ग आए हैं इस टनल का इफ्तिताह करने के लिए। ऐसे प्रोजेक्टों से न सिर्फ दिल की दूरी बल्कि दिल्ली से दूरी जो है वो कम हो जाती है।
The tunnel bypasses avalanche-prone areas that often disrupt transportation routes during winter months, ensuring that both civilian and military traffic can move efficiently.
In fact, it will be a game changer for the region because it will provide a road connection, stable road connection, which won't be affected by snowfall. It won't be affected by other weather issues. So it is a very critical project as far as connecting Ladakh is concerned, not only for the civilians, but also for the defense, because we know what happened in eastern Ladakh with the flare-up with the Chinese. And since there has been an increased focus on ensuring that road connectivity gets better.
By facilitating year-round travel, the tunnel is expected to bolster military logistics and support operations in the region. Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi also highlighted Jammu and Kashmir's move from terror to tourism.
Past year, 60% of terrorists eliminated were of Pakistan origin. As of today, whatever is remnant in the valley and Jammu area, we feel that around 80% or more are from Pakistan origin. Overall, violence parameters under control, tourism, development activities, Amarnath Yatra, where we witnessed more than 5 lakh pilgrims this time, and peaceful conduct of elections are indicators to a positive change.
The inauguration of the Z-Morh tunnel not only marks a significant engineering achievement, but also plays a crucial role in enhancing India's strategic capabilities along its northern borders while promoting economic growth. With Mir Farid in Sonamarg, Jammu and Kashmir, Bureau Report, India Today.
So there are connectivity projects worth 42,000 crore rupees. Highways, tunnels, expressways that are in the works in Jammu and Kashmir and in Ladakh. Z-Morh tunnel, done. Zojila tunnel likely to be completed by 2028. There are 14 tunnel projects that are currently under construction. They're in the pipeline. Now, Lal Chowk, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, you heard him saying, sees tourists late at night. Ice cream khane log jate hain. Gulmarg is the winter capital, is the capital of winter games. 19 Khelo India centers. Are Naya Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh here? Can Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror and Chinese expansionism? Remember, they work in tandem at times. Radical Islamist terror from Pakistan and Chinese expansionism or China funding Pakistani terror. Can they still derail the India growth story? Joining me on this special broadcast is Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain. General Hasnain commanded the Kashmir Corps. Professor Brahma Chilani is one of India's best respected strategic affairs analysts. General Vinod Bhatia is former Director General of Military Operations, and Dr. Tara Kartha is former Director at the National Security Council Secretariat. And General Hasnain, what does the Z-Morh tunnel signify for you? You commanded the Srinagar Corps and you were deployed along Pangong So in Ladakh as a commanding officer. With the Zojila tunnel by 2028, is this a game changer? It impacts LOC, LAC and the AGPL, General.
Gaurav, thank you for inviting me for this wonderful program. No doubt, this is a game changer, a transformational event which is taking place at the moment. While I was there, or 15 to 20 years ago, it was very clear that Ladakh was entirely dependent upon the whole concept of, was placing enough logistics there, which was dependent upon the movement over these various roads which we have been talking about just now. And we used to wait for 6 months for it to open. From October to March, April, the roads used to open, and only then we had a very short period in which we could carry out our dumping of our logistics. What you're seeing at the moment here is the beginning is actually, in fact, this is progressively going to keep on improving. What we are looking at primarily is at the moment at a reduction of the time span in which the area of Ladakh is going to be cut off from the rest of India. You see, with this opening of the stretch from Gagangir to Sonamarg, first of all, Sonamarg itself doesn't have to be evacuated. It will remain there. The population can stay put there. It can open up and become an alternative tourism center to Gulmarg.
Yes.
And at the same time, as we progress towards the Zojila Tunnel inauguration in 2028, we can witness the fact that Ladakh will be 24/7, 365 days of the year. We can have vehicular movement and carrying out our entire dumping in the process. Just remember, I would like to just tell your viewers, it takes many times 10 to 12 days for a single vehicle to go from Pathankot up to Ladakh and back. Now, if you are doing this on a 24/7 basis, 365 days of the year, that will not cause such a major problem for you.
Yes.
Otherwise, there was always a race against time to be able to build up your logistics in Ladakh.
And before I bring in Professor Brahmachalani, I also want to bring in Jal Bhatia into this conversation. Jal Bhatia, what do you make of the Chinese military exercises that are currently underway, exercises that are apparently being spearheaded by a regiment of the Xinjiang Military Command? We are told that the Chinese are showcasing military technology, ATVs, their all-terrain vehicles, their unmanned systems, their exoskeletons designed to enhance soldier mobility and endurance in extreme high altitude. So what's China's big signal right now?
See, despite the disengagement on the 21st October, which is decided upon and which has happened, and which is a very good move forward, however, China's posturing has not ended. China's strategic intent and aim to contain India is still there. So China will do what it's doing, and every day you find Chinese on the social media, on the media, new technology being demonstrated to China. The sixth generation stealth fighter being demonstrated to China. So this is part of the China's three warfares, which is legal warfare, which is public opinion, which is psychological warfare. So you find this happening almost on a daily basis, regular basis, and we are giving vent to it actually. But that is only posturing. I don't think China has learned its lessons from 2020, 2024, 4.5 years of deployment. We have raised the cost and consequence of China, and for the first time after 1979, China has gone back. If you look at China's strategy has always been one, claim, which is claimed in 1957 onwards; two, occupy, which it occupied in 2020 and earlier also; three, legalize; and fourth is integrate. Right.
Okay.
So it has occupied, and now for the first time after occupation, it has gone back to the claimed areas.
Okay.
Right.
So you're saying it's parts of psychological warfare. But, if I could bring in Professor Brahmachalani. Professor Chilani, the Chinese Xinjiang Military Command exercise that's taking place right now, the display of their all-terrain vehicles, their drones, their enhanced soldier mobility, their so-called extreme high-altitude endurance, what do you make of the Chinese exercises?
Well, what we are seeing on one hand, there have been these moves to improve Sino-Indian relations, conciliatory moves by both sides. On the other side, we're seeing provocative actions by China. We've seen a series of such provocative actions by China since the Xi Jinping, Narendra Modi meeting. For example, recently the Chinese created 2 new counties that incorporated parts of Indian Ladakh. Then they announced this new super dam project, which actually was approved in March 2021. But apparently the work is well underway, and now they are unveiling their project, the fact that they're trying to present it as a fait accompli to India. And now these war games right on the border with India. So these provocative actions suggest that that true reconciliation between China and India is still far away. And I think we need to factor in these realities. We need to understand that the Chinese are determined to pursue their interests, which basically mean that they will not treat India as an equal. They will seek to contain India. Their strategy from the very beginning has been to engage India while seeking to contain India at the same time, simultaneously. So engagement with containment. has been their strategy, and it's very clear.
But is that strategy
Actions.
actually working, Dr. Tara Kartha? Because China was extremely upset first with the Sela tunnel, now with the Z-Morh tunnel, and then in 3 years the Zojila tunnel. Is India able to send across that message that India cannot be and will not be contained? India means business. How would China be reading India's infrastructure development?
I think on the slightly lighter side, the fact that the Chinese came and attacked us has led to the opening of Kashmir to India. It is not just us reaching there, it is the Kashmiris reaching us. That is what we needed to do, and we've done it. So whatever China can say, whatever it likes, for us, when we say game changer, it is the Kashmiris that you are winning over. And the fact that, those the statistics which you just talked about, terrorists, so many things, foreign terrorists, the number of local terrorists are extremely low because there's so much happening. As the Prime Minister said, there are people, like when I went to Srinagar earlier, there was nowhere you could go for a cup of tea, hang out, face, everything is come up. This is a battle for Kashmir. Keep aside China for the moment. But what China did is helped us to win our battle in Kashmir. So that is the height of irony. But having said that, the terrorism game is not over. It is not over at all. And I hope we don't take our eyes off that ball, which is Pakistan. Please remember that whole Karakoram realignment project brings the highway absolutely into Muzaffarabad. There's a Shanta tunnel which is being constructed, made into 4-lane. For the first time, you'll have connectivity from Gilgit-Baltistan into what's so-called Azad Kashmir, which means that the Chinese, if they want to come in, they're going to come in straight into Muzaffarabad. So the game is not over by a long chalk.
Okay. General Hasnain, is that also your assessment? I'll come to J&K and terrorism in just a moment. But this link between the China-Pakistan economic corridor, the infrastructure development, India's counter strategy, are we keeping pace or is the adversary still in a position, and especially when you have two hostile neighbors, are they in a position to outmaneuver us?
Well, you can see, Gaurav, you mentioned those 14 tunnels that you were talking of at that time. Many of these tunnels also link up the line of control. For example, the Gurez Valley, you have the Razdan and the Kanzalwan area through which you are going to get 24/7 connectivity in the very near future. But I fully share the concern which Taraji is mentioning here. There is no doubt that China will make efforts to circumvent, go around, surround you from different directions in every possible way. They may not come down to war fighting. As very correctly assessed by all my fellow panelists here, it is psychological warfare. When you enhance your capability, you impinge on your adversary, your capability, and get him worried. That's his whole intent. We are doing the same at this time on our side as far as infrastructure development is concerned. And I think we are matching him for project to project.
And because Professor Chilani, in case China wanted to browbeat India, did China succeed or fail, let's say 2020 at Galwan or subsequently in Yangtze, or even now when there are several analysts in Pakistan who say that China's entire, China-Pakistan economic corridor strategy appears to be backfiring. China's very upset. China's very upset about the loss of life of Chinese. So even if Pakistan and China come together, are they able to succeed or are they unable to succeed despite their evil intent, sir?
Gaurav, whether it's the China problem, whether it's the Bangladesh problem or the Pakistan problem or the Myanmar problem, all these problems center on one issue: border management. Unless India concentrates on upgrading its border management, on building real border security, India's internal and security will come under growing pressure. India's internal and external security are both hinge on effective border management. Take Bangladesh. 30% of the border with Bangladesh doesn't even have a barbed wire fence. And now the effort to build border fence a barbed wire fence along the Bangladesh border has come to a stop because the Bangladesh border guards opened fire on the workers. So when we don't have proper border management, if we don't have proper borders that are secure, how can we actually enhance our security? How can we feel secure? And I think the issues are common. We need to invest resources. We need to focus on effective border management. That has to be priority number one. We are spending billions of dollars every year in importing weapons that we will not, that will not be utilized in any war. What we need to do is to invest resources in border security. That has become an increasing challenge for India because over the years we have neglected border security, and now the Bangladesh issue is becoming more acute.
And first,
even the Myanmar problem is becoming more acute and having an impact on the situation in Manipur. So we need to focus on building effective border security.
That's a very pertinent point you raised. I'll come to you, General Bhatia, but Tarak Karta, I want to understand. I had covered the killing of BSF soldiers in Pirdwar and Mankachar when Bangladeshi border guards had killed many Indian border guards in 2001. And that was very disappointing. We're a far stronger country, but Bangladeshis, their border guards could kill our BSF personnel. Now they can stop. Bangladesh doesn't have enough food, it doesn't have enough electricity, it does not have an effective system, and yet they can stop our BSF from fencing the border. All of this seems to indicate that our entire approach does appear to be very ad hoc.
No, by and large, I agree with what Brahma is saying. That's true. But see, no country has got absolute border security. If the US had border security, it wouldn't have problems with Mexicans, coming in. It's not possible. 100% is not possible. But having said that, your point is right. You need to be, the Bangladesh border, as any of these gentlemen will tell you, it's a terrible place. It's got rivers, it's got you've seen it yourself. What kind of landscape it becomes, especially during monsoons. So there are physical problems here. As for affordability, here is Pakistan, which is, the most broke state ever.
Yes.
And is still doing this kind of thing, the kind of thing that it is, you heard 80% of the so-called terrorists. I am very hesitant to call them terrorists because these are not non-state actors.
Yes.
These are a different breed who are very well trained. They are professional. They are not your usual, guys who come and get killed. They are staying within the forest. They are coming out, engage and go back. They are still doing that, and those guys are broke. So there's no, when Kargil happened, Pakistan was broke.
Yes.
So there's no direct correlation between this.
No, somewhere down the line, that would mean, General Bhatia, our policies still remain ad hoc because a Bangladesh should be apprehensive. Their border guards should be scared of our BSF, and yet they can challenge them, they can stop them, which means somewhere down the line, what we used to hear about the 1990s about our soldiers and Pakistani soldiers, that we are far superior, but we need to keep going back and taking commands from one up chain. Pakistan doesn't need to do that. The same thing appears to be happening with Bangladesh. How dare Bangladeshi border guards stop border fencing on the Indian side?
I think, Gaurav, you're absolutely right. We need to be more assertive along the borders, and we've got to differentiate between border security, border management, border defense. Right? There are certain differences in that, so we've got to synergize the efforts. Even let me know, the topic has come up. Even along the sensitive line of actual control, we have the armed forces, and then we have the ITBP. The ITBP functions under the Minister of Home Affairs.
Yes.
The armed forces under the Minister of Defense. And then there are conflicting orders being passed through various echelons of the ministry downwards through various echelons. Why can't we have one border, one force as per the government of, Group of Ministers report of 2002?
Yes.
It's categorically para 5.1 that we should have one border, one force, and the contested borders would be manned by the army. And the BSF is under operational control of the army along the line of control. But along the line of actual control, there is differences. and all the cooperation, the coordination on the ground level. The structures have to be smooth. There have to be systems and structures in place. Otherwise, the most sensitive borders, we've got dual command and control, which is not a very good situation. Let me tell you that, having been on the LC and command more on the LAC.
So, which means while we are spending so much money on multiple borders, General Hasnain, and infrastructure development, I would understand, is to checkmate China and ensure Pakistan cannot launch a military operation. However, these countries on their own, together with countries like Bangladesh, this threat of radical Islamist terror, India continues to then bleed at multiple borders, General Hasnain.
Oh, well, there's no doubt about that, Gaurav. But specific to Bangladesh, I do believe that the government of India is following a policy of greater tolerance at the moment. While I entirely agree with General Bhatia that, you can't allow yourself to be taken for a ride on an issue like this when you've decided that you are going to fence the border, then you might as well go ahead and do it.
Yes.
But the tipping point, you see, many times it happens in situations of this kind where standoff with a country which has been friendly with you for the better part of so many years, and suddenly you are accosted with a situation such as this, you will consider many times before actually reaching the tipping point. I'm sure the government of India has no doubt that it will act if it is required to act finally. But it will perhaps continue to give a last chance to that situation to improve itself.
Okay. Professor Chilani, Dr. Karta also raised that point about 60% of the 73 terrorists, the army chief said, who were killed in Jammu and Kashmir were Pakistani. He also said there's no drop in infiltration attempts. In your appreciation, given Pakistan's condition, can it still scale up at will? Any plan to bleed India at the LOC, with China at the LAC, with Bangladesh at the international border, or with these local radicalized youth, bleed us from within?
Gaurav, look at it this way. If failing state like Pakistan can continue to bleed India, can continue to infiltrate terrorists into India, what does it say about India?
Yes.
If a country like Bangladesh, which today is in dire state financially, whose economy is going downhill rapidly, if that, with a illegitimate government in office, forces India to halt its barbed wire fencing, what does it say about India? Or, for example, not being able to even close your border with Myanmar.
Yes.
Allowing the situation in Manipur to deteriorate. Even drones and other Western-supplied weapons to Myanmar rebels are now entering Manipur. What does it say about India? Or keeping the border with Nepal open. If some hostile foreign forces want to undermine India's internal security, they will use the Nepal frontier, wouldn't they? So why is it that our decision makers, our policy makers, don't take a holistic view of border management and border security? Why is it that we spend all this money, billions of dollars, importing fancy weapon systems, but we are unable to deal with basic things? How is China investing in border security? Look at the way China is concentrating on creating effective border security. It's doing everything possible to build foolproof border security, not just with India, with every other neighbor. That's the way to go about it. Learn from your own enemy as to how to upgrade your border management and border security.
Or learn from past mistakes. We've made so many mistakes at multiple borders, General Hasnain, and I fail to understand. I mean, these tunnels are outstanding. They're required. Our infrastructure push is very good. Helps economy, helps country, big strategic growth. But the bleeding borders, we've suffered in the past. We haven't learned from history, it would appear. Manipur case in point, the rebels and you know Manipur, General Bhatia knows Manipur, with these rebels getting weapons from across the border, foreign countries playing that evil game, deep state getting involved, not just in Manipur, but also along the India-Bangladesh border. How does one checkmate that, General Hasnain?
See, Gaurav, while I fully agree with Brahmachalani Saab, that, we need to do much more. We need to improve. But at the same time, also bat for the government of India to that extent that the kind of terrain which exists around our country, the kind of borders that we have, you can keep constructing fences and double fences and triple fences. I can tell you that people will still get across, material and resources will still get across, drugs will still get across. If you go and see what's happening in the Middle East, how did weaponry reach the Hamas? Tell me that. There's a sea route and there's a route coming from Iran through Syria, through Lebanon, Levant, through Israel. How did it reach there? How did tons and tons of cement get inside Gaza to construct 150 kilometers worth of tunnels? No one can really explain this, Gaurav. It's very easy for us to sit here and take decisions to say that the army and the armed forces, the CAPFs have made huge mistakes. The government of India has not been decisive enough. Let me tell you, this is an international trend. It happens across the world. But I agree to that extent that we need to be more decisive and we need to continue making greater efforts.
Is there, Tara Kartha, a message that has gone, and I want to come back to Balakot. I keep coming back to Balakot on dealing with Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror, because after that, there hasn't been a terror attack outside Jammu and Kashmir, like a 26/11, like a Delhi Red Fort attack or a Parliament attack or a Delhi High Court attack or Jaipur attack or an attack at IISc Bangalore or an Ahmedabad attack. The rest of the country has been safe from Pakistan state-sponsored radical Islamist terror. Is that the only way? Impose costs on state sponsor of terror, whether it's Pakistan, whether Bangladesh is playing Pakistan's game, then impose costs. Or is the new threat, madam, actually the radicalization of local youth by the Maulanas and Maulvis sitting in Pakistan and Bangladesh, the online radicalization?
That's I think the Balakot, what it did is you refused to play their game. They had played a game with you for ages. You broke all the rules and said, we're not going to play this game anymore. That was Balakot. But please, in terms of Bangladesh, it's a different, Gaurav, it's different. Bangladesh, like I think General Hasnain said, you saw what happened in Maldives, right? Maldives went against us. They did all that stuff. And now they've come back to us. It usually happens in neighboring states. Smaller states will, when they come up, they'll start shouting at you. And then after some time, they come back. So that circle, you need to give Bangladesh enough time. However, I would caution one thing. Pakistan's game of terrorism is shifting. It is shifting in a way of coalescing a number of groups in Afghanistan and saying, oh, you know what? These are international terrorism groups. So you may have an attack which is not associated with Pakistan at all. It is sitting from Afghanistan somewhere. Apparently, it is international. And it attacks you. So what do? We have to strategize on this. It will not be a direct attack. It will be an indirect one. This game, like I said, is not over. You cannot control it while shutting your borders. It can't be done.
Okay. So no shutting of borders, but the radicalization of local youth, Professor Chilani and then General Bhatia, while India is building that highest bridge on the Chenab, the 14 tunnels, the 42,000 crore rupee projects that are happening, how do you change mindset of those who may be hostile?
There are these insidious forces at work. They are seeking to weigh down India, keep India boxed in. There are various forces, external forces that are seeking to weigh down India. So India faces these major challenges, ideological challenges from across the borders. We face geopolitical challenges from distant powers. These are issues that require longer-term thinking and longer-term planning. Unfortunately, in our system, we still remain quite ad hoc and reactive in our approach. That has to change. We need to plan and plan ahead. We need to have this kind of foresight and the resolve to do things in a planned manner, in a decisive manner. That decisiveness has to be created. It has to be inculcated in the system. And I think some of these deficiencies in our systems need to be addressed so that we are able to be proactive to at least to some extent, and we need to shed our risk averseness, our defensive posture, our defensive mindset. These have to be shed so that we can have a more dynamic, proactive approach.
Balakot
By
was the
dynamic and
template.
proactive, I do not mean
We
an
were not
aggressive
defensive
approach.
as a nation. Balakot showed that India was going to punish Pakistan, punish terror, call it a preemptive strike. Now, General Bhatia, is that your impression that, recently you had the Union Home Minister Amit Shah who spoke of 70% drop in terror, zero stone pelting, zero traction for separatists, 2.11 crore tourists, films being shot in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Is that Naya Kashmir and Ladakh, are they actually happening in your view on ground? That now Pakistan cannot derail that growth story even if it wants to radicalize some local youth?
Gaurav, yes. I've seen Kashmir for half a century now. Right. And the last I went to Kashmir 2024 in the month of July. I spent 3 weeks there. I was staying in the civil. I was not staying with the army. And for the first time, I saw Srinagar and surrounding areas. I had my own car with my wife. The two of us drove everywhere in Srinagar, the outskirts, and we went to Uri, we went to Pelgaon, Sonamarg. And mind you, we couldn't park our car anywhere. The parking lots were full, the tourists were full, the eateries were full, the shops were full, the hotels were full, the cabs were not available. That is the Kashmir, the Srinagar, the valley, which I saw, the Kashmir I saw. Right? I'm talking about July of 2024. For the first time, I have actually seen Srinagar. Otherwise, in the army, you're always on duty and you are always, about something. So this is the Srinagar we are talking about today. After 2019, 5th of August, things have changed. Unfortunately, the COVID put back the progress and the prosperity which has to come and the peace and stability. But what you see now, you see the silent majority now. They're no longer wanting anything to do with anyone. They're wanting their own welfare, their own economic development, the employment generation, the education. The schools are open. The schools are not. The first thing that used to happen in India, the schools used to close down. People used to come in the streets. They were paid 500 rupees. They would do stone pelting. It's not happening anymore. So we see a new Kashmir.
General Hasnain, the last...
Second more. Going back to this, we need a strategy with Pakistan and Bangladesh. It has to be proactive, it has to be punitive, it has to be preemptive. They should know that there are constant consequences. I'm not talking about China, I'm talking about Bangladesh, Pakistan.
Yes.
Don't think, and let's not get rid of that fence will do it. I go with General Hasnain totally on this. The fence is an obstacle. It has to be manned. And despite the fence of manning, you'll still find people. Berlin Wall was, breached every day. So what are we talking about? This terrorist is difficult. You're blind, there's fog, there's rain, there's so many other factors coming in.
General Hasnain, the last 30 seconds I have on this part of the show, I just want to understand from you, is this the emergence of a Naya Jammu and Kashmir and a Naya Ladakh? And even if Pakistan wants, can it derail it, or are the locals no longer with them? Can the locals still be radicalized like they were in 1990?
Gaurav, firstly, there is no doubt about it that we are well on the way to establishing the Naya Kashmir that we have always dreamt about. We have not yet reached there, I will say. We are on the way of progressing towards it. And there's always the possibility that something can happen to try and attempt to derail this. That is why I always express a word of caution in this and say, keep working hard, let's keep making progress. But the possibility of something from the other side happening, Pakistan has not vanished. The terrorists have not vaporized, right? The separatists are still very much there. The deep state of Pakistan is there, very much existent. With all the factors which have always tried to make Kashmir a hellhole, they're still remaining there present. I think the possibility of a comeback always remains. And that's why we need to be always very, very cautious.
Cautious and stay a step ahead of terror and never hesitate to punish terror. For joining me here on this India Today special broadcast, Professor Brahmachalani, Professor Tarakarta, General Hasnain and General Bhatia, as always, many thanks. A quick break here, but don't go away. On the other side, I'll take you to Prayagraj for the Mahakumbh. More than 1.5 crore devotees have taken a dip on day one. The 45-day religious congregation is the world's largest spiritual gathering. Colors of Kumbh coming up.